Alright, so let's do some theory crafting with making the Chosen Axis work. This is one of my favorite warbands from the early ages, and they don't really work anymore, do they? So I thought up some changes that, it might well make them too strong. But this is a start, so we can tone back from there, and maybe you could try it in your home game. I'll probably try it in a game or two of mine. So the first thing I've done is to change all of the fighters' move characteristics to 3 on both sides of the fighter cards. So 3 move uninspired, 3 move inspired. They sorely need that extra move, and they're naked dwarfs. They shouldn't be too slow, and to really be able to pull off the offensive kind of playstyle that I want them to have, I think 3 move is necessary. So what I've then done is to change the inspired mechanic, because I think holding an objective at the end of the action phase doesn't really sound like a Fire Slayer thing to be doing. I think we can have something a little bit more offensive here. So my idea is to have like a hybrid kind of an inspired mechanic that reads like this. After this fighter's successful attack action, this fighter is holding an objective. Or this fighter's successful attack action targets an enemy fighter on an objective token. So that just plays into the whole more aggressive play style, but also their like gold craze and really desire to get that precious metal, I guess. Then I've done some tweaks on the fighter cards. They are, accuracy-wise and damage output-wise, they are pretty fine. I haven't really buffed up their damage. I have done some slight tweaks to their survivability and their attack accuracy, though. I haven't changed anything about the leader, fjul-grimnir. He's 2 hammers, 3 damage, 2 hammers, 4 damage with cleave inspired. I think that's fine. It's a really hefty attack with those 4 damage with cleave, so I don't think we need to do a lot there. Tefk, I've done some tweaking with. It's also very accurate inspired, but he has this weird if you roll a crit you have cleave, which is oftentimes a moot point, but I didn't want to give him like just blanket cleave because I felt that might be too strong with 3 hammers, so I gave him ensnare instead. And my plan with Tefk and also then Maegrim, because I'm gonna mention him at the same time, they both wield dual axes, so they feel a little bit more dodgy and nimble than the other 2. So I've changed their defense characteristic to 2 dodge inspired, but they start on the shield. But once they get the momentum up, I think they should have 2 dodge. So for Vol Orcbane, I've done some hefty tweaking here. I've given him knockback 1 already on his uninspired side, and then I've given him a knockback 2 on the inspired side. Then I've also added the following text to his fighter card, which was kind of something I found on one of the upgrades. It's called War Song, but I've done some tweaking from the upgrade to read as follows. Add the following text to this fighter's fighter card. War Song. This fighter is considered to be supporting friendly fighters within 2 hexes of himself. So that also includes Vol himself, because he should be benefiting from his own song. So I think that's really cool, like a little addition there. Then we have Mad Maegrim. I've added Grievous 1 to his uninspired side, because I just felt like he was kind of lacking in the damage department. But then inspired, I removed the Grievous, and he's just given the 2 baseline damage instead. He still keeps that reroll when inspired, and I've also changed his defense characteristic to 2 dodge, just like I did with Tefk on his inspired side. So that's quite a boost to the fighting cards, but I think we could probably live with that. So next up we have the objectives. And this is obviously the most work here. So we have only 2 searches, and a total of 9 objectives, and that's obviously not a valid rival deck. So to make this valid and competitive, we need 6 searches. We don't necessarily need 6 searches, we probably just need 4, 5, because not all warbands have 6 searches, but I think why not make 6 searches? So first up we have the 2 existing searches. The first one is called Ferocious Charge. It's basically just kill someone with a charge super action. And that's fine. It's a little bit boring, but it's a kind of a standard card from this era of the game. Then we have Scion of Grimnir. A friendly leader's attack action takes the target out of action, but I've added the kind of victorious duel kind of a deal here. If the target is an enemy leader, gain an additional glory, just to make it a little bit stronger. Then we have Fuel by the War Song, so it kind of plays into that Vol mechanic. Score this immediately after a friendly fighter's successful attack action with 1 or more supporting fighters. kind of feels like a fun card with that new mechanic from Ball added in. Then we have Into the Fray. Score this immediately after an activation step if all surviving friendly fights are in enemy territory. It's a card we see like with the Savage Orcs and the Vampires, and now when they all have 3 move uninspired, it's doable. Then we have Urgold Greed. Score this immediately after an activation step if 2 or more friendly fights are holding objectives not in your territory. Gain an additional glory point if you're holding 3 objectives when you score this card. So the third objective doesn't necessarily need to be in no man's land or enemy territory. It could be in your territory, but 2 of them has to be in not your territory, basically. So I think that's pretty fun. I like these kind of hybrid additional glory kind of cards that we've seen on the rise here lately. Then the last of these search objectives, called Just a Flesh Wound. Scores immediately after an enemy fight's attack action, with a damage characteristic of 3 or greater that deals damage to a friendly fighter, if that friendly fighter is still on the battlefield. So it's kind of a card that is very similar to a Vermspat card, I believe. I think that just kind of fits the theme with really hardy dwarves, right? Then we have the end phase card, so we have Acclaim Retaken. I haven't changed anything there. I think that's a fine card. But I think it's a fun card. It's not very easy, but every card shouldn't be really easy. Then we have A Grim Promise. Scores in an end phase if an enemy leader is out of action, and a friendly fjul-grimnir is on the battlefield. So I've changed that one because previously it read that you have to kill the enemy leader in this round, so it could kind of be like a dead card in your hand if you draw it after the fact, right? So this is a bit more versatile, but it also needs you to have your leader alive, so it's both harder and easier at the same time. Then we have For the Urgold. Scores in the end phase if 2 or more surviving friendly fights are inspired. If 3 or more surviving friendly fights are inspired, score an additional glory point. So I've changed this to be... so it's 1 glory, but it's 2 glory if you have 3, right? Yeah. Then we have Fury of the Lodge, which read previously scores an end phase if all of your surviving fights at least 3 made a charge action in the preceding action phase. I've changed this to read, score this in end phase if friendly fighters made 4 or more attack actions in the preceding action phase, or friendly fighters made 2 or more successful attack actions in the preceding action phase. That's just more akin to more recent cards. Then we have Hoarders. It previously read, scores in end phase if all of your fighters and no enemy fights are holding objectives for 2 glories. That's quite hard for 2 glory. I've changed it to read, scores in an end phase if you hold 2 more objectives for 1 glory, and then gain an additional glory if you hold 3 more objectives. So that feels pretty decent to me. And then we have Unstoppable Advance, and I haven't changed that, so that's just all of your surviving fights in enemy territory. That's one of the really good original cards, so I haven't done anything there. So let's move over to the ploys then. I haven't really touched the ploys much because that's one of the strong points in this Warband. I have done a tweak to the Berserk Fury card though. This card previously read, the first time a friendly fight suffers damage in the next activation, roll a defense die. If the result is a shield, they suffer no damage. And that's okay, but I have changed this to be a reaction card instead. Just made it a little bit stronger. So it reads now, play this during an enemy fight's attack action that targets a friendly fighter. Roll 2 magic dice. For each focus, reduce the damage suffered by 1 down to a minimum of 0 instead. So it could be no damage, but most likely it will not be. It has a lesser chance to completely reduce the damage, but it kind of probably has a higher chance to trigger some kind of damage reduction. Then we have Indomitable, which I haven't changed. I haven't changed Living Wall. Oath Sworn is fine. Piercing Stare is fine. Slaying Blow is situationally very fun. The Earth Shakes is amazing. Treasure Lust is also very good. But here I've changed this actually then. I've actually changed this to read, they must end up on a feature token instead, because it might be the case where you want to flip back to an objective, right? So just make it a little bit more updated basically. Your Gold, I haven't changed it. We Shall Not Be Moved, I haven't changed it. That's it for the deploys. So the upgrades then. So here we have quite an overhaul here. Activated Runes, I haven't changed. Brute Strength, I have changed to read Grievous 1. No fighter card restriction. Instead of like knockback for Tefk or something. I don't know. Then there was this Defiant Strike, which was like a reactionary attack for Tefk, where he couldn't be pushed back and he get to make a range 1 attack, but it's very telegraphed, I guess, so I just made it into an unrestricted card, but restricted to inspired fighters. It's now called Aura of Akshi, to just kind of tie into more of the lore. -1 dice from range 1 and 2 attack actions that target this fighter. Then we have like the throwing axe for Maegrim. I've changed that to be unrestricted with 3 range, 3 fury, 1 damage, and grievous. Because, I mean, if we have a ranged attack, we could inspire from standing on an objective further away and just makes it slightly easier. And having a universal ranged option should probably be very desirable as well. Then we have Grimnir's Fortitude, which is just +1 defense for the leader. I haven't changed that. Then we have the Grimnir's Speed, which I have changed to read Greedy Haste, and it's now +1 move, but a reaction after this fight's activation, push this fighter 1 hex towards the nearest feature token. So it ties in more to the desire to end up on the objectives, and we could also react to our activation after an attack to inspire this way as well. So then we have Grimnir's Blessing. I've changed this to work on both shields and crits, but if it triggers, it's destroyed instead. So it reads, during an attack action that would take this fighter out of action, roll a defense die. If you roll a crit or shield, you suffer no damage, and after the effect from this reaction triggers, discard this card. And then I have actually instead of the War Song, which I've kind of put on the fighter card and tweaked it, I've now Vol upgrade read Inspired War Song. Restricted to Vol, this fighter is considered to be two supporting fighters. So it's basically exactly the same as it read before, but with the added benefit of supporting from 2 hexes away and also supporting himself. This is now even better. Then we have Reckless Swing. So we had like this scything attack for Vol before, which was just utter crap. I've changed this to be thematic with the Fire Slayer desire to die in glorious battle, basically. So it's +1 dice to this fight's attack actions. That's a very strong effect, so we have to have downside here. So +1 dice to enemy fights attack actions that target this fighter. I think like the Hexbane have something similar. And then something to just keep them on the objectives. Immovable object. This fighter cannot be driven back. So what do you think? Did I mess up here? Did I make them too strong? Or do you think they are like just right? Or maybe you think they're still too weak? Hit me up in the comments. Yeah, this has been a very fun experiment. Thank you. Bye. This is Mats again, chiming in to thank you for watching the video. Please don't forget to subscribe, like and comment, and to not miss out on future content, ring the bell as well. And if you really liked this video, feel free to click the thanks button just below this video. And if you want to support me even further, you can now become a channel member and claim the title of Critical Focus fan. Until next time, take care, bye.